The Nuggets level up versus the Boston Celtics. They climb the ladder against the top team in the East. I'm out of jokes about the rim thing. Anyway, this is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can join the show and join all sorts of folks who hang out with us nightly. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. Thanks for joining us on a late night edition. If you're listening to this on a Monday morning, happy Monday to you and happy New Year. Happy 2023 to all of you. Hope that 2023 is going to be absolutely fantastic, or at least better than last year. My name is Matt Moore. I'm a senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Adam Mares. He's director of content over at DMVR. You can catch every pre and post game show, as well as great content every single day around the clock, and check out their awesome bar with lots of cool stuff and cool people that hang out at it. I want to go to it sometime, but I don't ever get to because I'm always actually at the arena. Adam, it seems like only yesterday you and I were talking about, the Nuggets don't have any really good wins. Like, if you look at it, like, they don't have any, and now they've beaten Miami, they beat Memphis, Miami, and the Boston Celtics here in this stretch, including they get the win versus the Boston Celtics on New Year's Day, 123-111 after a prolonged stoppage in the middle of the game that made everything very weird. But up until that point, the Nuggets really dominated the Celtics. They responded to every run. The bench was a positive. Nikola Jokic dominated. I don't have any Nuggets to criticize tonight.
I think that's fair. I don't think there's any Nuggets to criticize. This was a great win, a really good win. And you kind of joked at the beginning about, just a couple weeks ago, the Nuggets were on a 3-game losing streak, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Dallas, and things felt bad. Since that moment, what is this here? If I can count these out, 9-2. So 9-2 since then, maybe 10-2. I can't. I'd have to add them all up.
Malone said 10 of 12, 10 of the last 12. So let's go with that.
All right, 10 of the last 12. He probably did count. But in a bunch of good wins. It's not just that they have wins; it's that they have statement wins. Boston, even Miami was a statement win just in how it happened, overcoming Miami's hot shooting. Beating Phoenix, beating Portland, beating Memphis. These are all big wins. So to me, the Nuggets are a new team. They're kind of a reborn team. In that they are playing at the level we kind of hoped. I don't even want to say expected, because it might be even a little bit above what we expected. But tonight was right there with any of them in terms of they seem to do exactly what it is that they wanted to do and needed to do. They look like they won the game playing the way they want to win.
And they did so without Jamal Murray, who missed the game due to injury management. Bruce Brown steps in, plays fantastic. He has a just phenomenal game. 21 points on 8 of 14 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3. You got to stop leaving him open, folks. 3 rebounds.
Honestly, I saw you asked him this after the game about the teams doing this. What do you think? Like, when is the adjustment coming? Because as a career, he's not a great 3-point shooter, and he's not a volume 3-point shooter. But last year he shot 40%. This year he's shooting 40%, and the volume is starting to skyrocket. Last year was just 1.3 attempts. This year 3.2. Like, at what point does that change, Matt? What point does it start to be like, run him off? He's a shooter.
That's an interesting question, because I think some of this is built off of the scouting report, right? So on the scouting report, I would imagine that what it's talking about with Brown is don't let him beat you off the dribble, a terrific creator off the bounce, right? Like, you don't want Bruce in a connective role. You don't want him getting around you, getting a 4-on-4 or a 5-on-4. You don't want that situation. And so eventually probably there will be a team that will probably start putting on the scouting report, hey, shoot 40% from 3 this season. Probably time to start closing out on him. But as I've talked about before, a lot of this stuff is all built upon the reputation that guys have. I always think that the decisions from defenders of how to close out and whether to close out is built way more off of conceptual reputation league-wide than it is about what the actual numbers are. I think that, and we've seen this before in the past, where Marcus Smart's a guy that guys have always closed out hard against. Smart's been a good shooter the last 2 seasons, but when he was terrible, guys were still closing out on him. And I was like, why would you do this? And we've seen the opposite in the case of Bruce Brown, where he's been a reliable shooter this season and last year, and teams are still willing to dare him. And after the game, he obviously said, please keep leaving me open. Just keep daring me. Gotta love it.
You gotta leave someone open. Here's a crazy stat for you though, Matt. He has already taken more threes this year than any other year of his career, including last year where he took 94. He's taken 108 prior to tonight's game. Isn't that weird? Isn't that crazy to you?
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. Great looks. It was crazy. I spent a lot of time pregame grilling Malone on his thoughts on the Celtics team, because honestly, I think if you ask Michael Malone to build the perfect Michael Malone team, it might honestly be the Boston Celtics, and you could say they wouldn't play like that under Malone or whatever, but gritty, tough, switchable, versatile, big, physical, and they move the ball, and they have great players, and they shoot the ball well. It's this really good combination. And it was interesting to hear kind of his thoughts on a lot of what they do. And I thought the Nuggets, this is what's crazy. To me, this game represented a bigger challenge for them defensively than any other game that they've faced, given the way that Boston plays, which is they don't put you in a lot of pick and rolls. They challenge you in isolation one-on-one. They force you to bring help, and then they reverse to the corner. Now, Boston had an outlier shooting night. If you objectively look at this from any angle, Boston had an objectively poor shooting night.
And Denver ran hot. This is probably their best shooting game of the year.
Yeah. And so you have this perfect kind of, and it shows a lot of how good Boston is that they were in this game at all. That is a testament to how good Boston is, that this wasn't a 30-point game, given the disparity in the shooting splits. What I will say, though, is I thought Denver's rotations were crisper. I thought the rotation changes were significant in countering what they did. We'll talk about the second unit, which was phenomenal. It was terrific all the way through, and what they brought in the second segment. But all of the things that Denver did, they needed to do. They gave up fewer corner threes than I was expecting. And when they did, they gave a pretty good contest. They didn't get caught napping. They challenged guys at the level of the attack. It was a good defensive performance from Denver and an outlier shooting performance from Boston. Both of those things happened together. And while what Denver did does not directly correlate to the exact percentage that Boston shot, there is a relationship there. And on the other hand, I thought that Denver in particular, thanks to Nikola Jokic, who we'll talk about in the third segment, offensively, they put the boots to a team that is so good defensively, who is not, they haven't been great this year, but they have historically been this is a team of really good defenders, and the Nuggets dwarfed them. The decision to punish them inside with the starting unit, they looked so much bigger, so much physical. And the Celtics, as opposed to that first game, the Celtics looked helpless and overwhelmed on the interior.
So you made a bunch of points there, and I like the size one. We'll have to come back to it, because I first want to go to the defense. And you're right, Boston had a bad shooting night. Number one, they took some really weird shots. Some of the threes they took tonight, I was kind of like, my God, man, this team has terrible shot selection. And I know they have good shooters. So some of this is it was funny watching them earlier in the year, Matt, because I did feel like every player had more of a green light than ever before. And then guys are making shots. And you're telling yourself, well, man, maybe giving a team green lights, they're all more confident, right? They all feel more free and this or that. Then you have nights like tonight where, yes, they ran cold, but they also ran cold on a lot of bad shots. That I was just kind of like, my God, that is not your shot, Jaylen Brown. What are you doing right now?
Marcus Smart. Well, and it's interesting that you kind of mentioned that, because this is something that I started to notice with them, where obviously for betting purposes, I've had to keep pretty close eyes on the Celtics. And I'm not sitting there writing columns about you should just bet the Celtics to win the title because they're the best team. I've been going the other way, which is I'm like, look, I think the shooting actually gives them bad habits, because when you just expect everything to go in and your process isn't sound, you have nights where it's not as good.
Tonight was one of those nights, man. That argument to me, I totally see after watching tonight, where process is so important. And I do think that Denver ran hot tonight, but it was good process. I think you walk away saying they're going to be able to get good looks. They just do it against every single team. Whereas with Boston, you're like, I guess they're good enough to hit some of these terrible shots that they take. I guess they're good enough. Tatum will make some of those. But the other part of this, man, we were talking before we came online, in the first game, one of these teams looked like a physical playoff caliber tough team, and the other one didn't. The Celtics did, and Denver did not. That was not the case tonight. Denver, to me, looked as tough, if not tougher, than the Boston Celtics, just meaning more physical. Like they were putting the Celtics on their heels from a physicality standpoint. They were up for the challenge, up for the fight, and as you said, dwarfing them. But I think the second part of this that's interesting to me is tonight the Nuggets played very fast. And this was a fast game. At times it was chaotic. Like there were stretches when that fast got out of control for both teams. But by the way, sometimes that happens. Like when you speed the game up, sometimes the other team speeds up with you and sputters out. But I think that there is probably at least a slight correlation between how Denver was more physical tonight, matched them physically or exceeded them, picked up the pace and ran them, and Boston missing shots. There's at least some correlation there, in my opinion.
They wore him out for sure. They absolutely wore him out. Before we get a break, we'll come back and we'll talk about the bench. I do want to go ahead and give a couple of, and this will transition into the bench stuff. This was one of Malone's better coach games. And it wasn't just the decision to play Vlatko and Zeke in this game. And it wasn't just the decision of how he managed the rotations or play Christian Brown, which was opened up by Jamal Murray not being available. He actually said after the game, I asked him about the decision to put AG with that bench unit because I said, that bench unit's actually looking pretty good last couple of games when it's been Zeke Vlatko. And he said that unit's got momentum. And what was surprising me is he said, I really want to mirror Aaron's minutes versus Tatum. And I thought that was really interesting because for a guy that I've talked about a lot, that NBA teams in general don't adjust the rotations, right? It shows you how seriously Malone took this game. That he basically adjusted, and I think Jamal being out gave him an opportunity to do that, right? Where he could say, like, I got to stagger one of the guys from the starting unit into the second unit anyway. So what I can do here is I can take AG out, play more forwards, and then mirror AG versus Tatum. And that really helped to make sure that Tatum wasn't going against the second unit that can sometimes be up and down. Having AG out there, I think, helped a ton because we saw the bench unit without AG actually was like kind of spiraling a little bit. And then AG comes in and it kind of stabilizes on both ends. So I thought that I just thought that Malone's rotation tonight was pretty great considering the matchups, even in ways in which I didn't expect coming in. Not that I'm some genius, but like, I thought this was not a Zeke game, and it very clearly was. And we can talk about that after the break. You got anything you want to add there before you go?
Nope. I mean, I'm with you on it. It was nice to see because I thought originally when Aaron Gordon came back in, it was like, oh well, Jamal's not here. Maybe he's trying this or that. But the fact that it was deliberate to match Tatum to me is like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it's nice to see that flexibility. Gordon and Jokic have shared the court for almost all of their minutes this year, so it's very abnormal for Gordon to stagger like that, and it was the right call.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the bench, who had itself a really great night. We'll talk about why when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. How does it work? You just pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, and you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. One of my entries tonight was Jason Tatum, who I failed on because he did not shoot enough threes, and I thought that Bruce Brown would play him, and then Malone switched up on me and went to AG. My bad. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. They offer projections on any sport that you watch. MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, whatever. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy, and they offer safe and fast withdrawals. Currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, you're going to get $100. If you put in $50, you'll get $50 to play with. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Monday. If you're listening to this on Monday, Happy New Year to you. Recapping the Nuggets win over the Boston Celtics to even the season series 1-1. So let's talk about the bench unit who so the idea, and Asher Levy over at Denver Stiffs and I both agreed on this when we were talking with Ryan Blackburn pregame, is we're talking about how we're like, this doesn't feel like a Zeke game because they're gonna bring Robert Williams off the bench, and that's a tough matchup for Zeke to deal with that size. And then after the game, I realized like it was actually a perfect counter program because Robert Williams isn't gonna post up Zeke Nnaji. Robert Williams isn't gonna like It's
Rebound.
all
You got to worry about the rebounding though, and he did
Yep.
grab one, I think, on him. That was kind of a big one. So you do have to worry about that. That's a tough guy to box out.
But yeah, like there is, I think so like that's one of the challenges, but I thought Zeke did really well. Zeke had his best defensive sequence I've ever seen him play. The transition seat, non-switch onto a major player, like just like random defensive play. The transition play that he made, where he got down to the end of the floor, managed to disrupt Jaylen Brown, and then help force the turnover. That's a hustle play that you're never going to get with DeAndre Jordan. You're not going to get with most backup centers in the league. You're only going to get it from a guy like Zeke Nnaji with his type of mobility and athleticism. And that was a big sequence. Malone credited that post game. He's really liked how Zeke has played lately. So I have nothing but positive things to say about the Zeke Vlatko minutes. And I think you were higher on Bones than I was in this game, when Bones definitely made shots, which helps, I think, every single time that bench needs him to score. What?
Do you think Bones was bad tonight?
I don't think anybody was bad. I think Bones was good because Bones hit shots. That's my read. Bones was good because Bones hit shots. He had 4 assists to 4 turnovers. The 4 turnovers are plays that stick out in my mind a lot whenever I think about his game. I don't know. I've said this before. I don't know how to accurately judge his shot selection. I am okay with being just like befuddled by it. I'm not going to give him a failing grade because he made his shots. And it was a big positive, and he helped push. And he made timely ones too, and some tough ones to stave off runs from the Celtics and keep that bench unit above. So it was definitely a good Bones game.
I mean, he's still at 40%, at 40.5% basically on the year from 3. I've said this a lot. The Nuggets second unit plays this way on purpose when he's out there. I mean, I'm going to have to do a film study breakdown just to highlight all of these half-court possessions. It's not that he's going rogue on some plan. They try to spread the court. They try to give him the ball. They try to give him spacing, and they want him attacking. And then, maybe finding guys on kickouts, this or that. But there were several times tonight when he would get trapped or not trapped, but he would kind of get into a spot where you could tell he wasn't comfortable. And he would look for someone like, well, here, does somebody else want to run offense here or get something going? And there was nothing, there was nobody there, nobody that wants to like step up or whatever. But I thought he was good. Here's the thing. That second unit to me needs to have length, and it needs to have defense. And the Nuggets ran out Christian Brown, who I love. They played Vlatko Cancar, who's been really good lately. Yep. I mean, he's really making a lot of plays and making hustle plays. And Zeke Nnaji, and then as you mentioned, Aaron Gordon was there for a bit. KCP was there for a bit. Both of those guys good defenders. So you had good defenders around Bones the entire time, and not just good defenders. You had guys that are out there hungry to make hustle plays, namely Zeke Nnaji, Vlatko Cancar, and Christian Brown. Like those 3 guys in particular are going to go a little bit harder than everyone else because they don't play a lot of minutes and because they need to in order to be effective and to get more minutes. All of those guys I thought made hustle plays, made something out of nothing. And to me, that's a great formula for that second unit if you're going to build around Bones.
Yeah, I mean, I think Malone's kind of talked about this, getting stops and getting out and running, I think is a key for them. And when they do that, that's one of the things I think the starters in those units try and do more, which helps them, right? And again, I think this is part of why the personnel maybe like it needs to shift to Vlatko, because like Vlatko runs and Zeke runs, and like Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan are not going to run, and that's okay. But like that's like part of the translation here. I think is part of like the key of the keys to why I think that can be successful. Yeah, I thought Vlatko was great. Obviously, hitting shots is huge. Guys made shots and they played good defense. They just did. They just played really good defense. I was kind of curious, and I will be curious, I think, more to look at it as this. Hopefully, this unit gets more run together. Like I kind of wonder if the fact that the Celtics don't run a lot of pick and roll, if that actually helps them, right? Like the idea would be that this would be tougher for them, but in particular, this unit maybe it's better, and for the Nuggets as a whole, because we see how often the Nuggets are over helping to try and help the paint and then failing to recover on shooters. Maybe just not getting them into actions when they're facing these isolation teams. Maybe Denver's more comfortable in those types of situations, especially with better personnel in terms of mobility and versatility, like Vlatko and Zeke on the floor.
I don't know. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but Bones, for as bad defensively as he is, and he's really bad, the pick and roll is not where he's worst. Like he's actually okay, I think, in pick and roll defense. So, but tonight, to your point, they didn't run a whole lot of that. I just think the hustle, the length, you mentioned them looking big. The second unit looked big too. I mean, Aaron Gordon's a small forward. He's a Terminator at there. Zeke and Vlatko are big bodied. Like yes, Robert Williams is bigger than them. That's the one part where they were smaller. But at every other position, they looked big. Christian Brown, when he gets to play the shooting guard spot, looks enormous. So to me, I just think if you're going to build around Bones, if that's the guy you're going to go with, I do think you need to always give him some defense around him, especially in your backcourt. And having KCP and or Christian Brown next to him the entire night, to me, is like a really smart thing that I would try to do going forward.
I do want to credit him, Bones. Tatum sought him out. He hunted him down. He went bum hunting in the fourth quarter and got Bones on a switch and drove baseline into the basket. And Bones stayed with him and got a really good contest on it to force a miss. It's one play, but it's just like when they target you, those are the plays that you have to play your best.
You're right. And I brought this up, though, the last two games, when he was on the court, he was not the target. Michael Porter was.
Yeah.
Especially in that Sacramento game, which is just something to note. Like, maybe it was matchup dependent or what have you, but Bones was on the court in that Sacramento game, and they were going at Michael Porter, not Bones, which is, to me, tells you something.
By the way, Peter put this in the chat. Matt and Adam, you legends, can I get a shout out from Adelaide, Australia? Haven't missed a show in 6 years, so I think it's warranted. Shout out to him.
A long time, man.
What's up, Peter?
6 years.
Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. So why don't we take a break and we talk about, we can wrap up with Jokic.
And I think we went 2 segments yet.
That was like the going comment after the game. Like Malone joked about it. Malone joked about how he was like, oh, by the way, Nikola had his 90th triple-double. Anyway, like just kind of threw it in there and everyone kind of laughed at it. And his teammates really are marveling at him. I also want to shout out 2 other starters that I think really deserve mention from this game. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you about, that's right, folks, it's Built Bar time. Are you looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and my goal is a little bit is to eat a little healthier this year. And if you're like me, where you want to eat healthier, but you don't want to compromise taste, then we got just the thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't even think that they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. They come in unbelievable flavors like churro. Churro rocks. It's a really good one. Peanut butter brownie and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. You don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built at bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of the cookies and cream, double chocolate, or the coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Built Bar is the absolute best Built Bar and protein bar on the planet. Check it out at Built.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen today. Please make your second listen Game to Game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Final segment here with Adam Mares. By the way, before Adam takes off for vacation, so you guys are going to be with me all week. I know you're excited, but Adam, I promise I will make Adam come back. I swear I will make Adam come back. So, and as we wrap into the final segment, let's talk about Nikola Jokic, who, third segment, we'll go ahead and get to the fact that he drops 30 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists. Malone stressed this. I knew he was going to stress this, and it is actually really important. 12 assists, 0 turnovers for
Crazy.
One Nikola Jokic. So, one, the Batman nonsense with Grant Williams can just take a hike. That's as Adam often talks about. You don't get Jokic more than once or twice.
Was he doing that because of his matchup with Jokic? Was that what that was?
Yes.
It was?
You didn't see that? Yeah, no. In the last meeting last season, he actually came to the arena dressed, or no, it was this year. He came dressed as Batman.
That was for the Nuggets game? Somehow I didn't realize that was for the Nuggets game. That's so corny.
Yes. So he believes that he is Batman because he stops the Joker. That did not happen tonight. They even tried starting the Batman in the second half, and that did not go well. So I think the big key here for me is one, if this is a finals matchup, then Grant Williams is going to have to mirror Jokic's minutes, and I don't think he can play that many minutes. Two, Al Horford is a legend and one of my favorite NBA players that I've ever seen. I just love Al Horford. I love everything about him. I've loved him since he came in the league. Loved him in Florida. Loved him the whole way. Poor guy is just too old. Does not have a shot in hell. Joker's control over the game. We talk about this all the time. We don't have anything new to say about it because it hasn't changed. It gets slightly better every game, and he just absolutely punishes them. And it's really crazy for me to see Boston fans who I follow on Twitter, who are are writers that are often very confident in their team's ability. There was literally a tweet that was like, "Thank God Joker has to sit down now," and it's just the constant pressure that he puts on you and the fact they tried doubling, they didn't double. There's no answer for him. I mean, we're watching an all-time player. We're watching not one of the best Nuggets of all time, although he is. Not one of the best players in the league today, though he is. We're watching one of the best players of all time. And that's where I'm at. It's just he's one of the best players of all time. And he does it every single night, no matter what they throw at him, no matter who's in or out. Another incredible performance from Nikola Jokic.
Just incredible. He's so unbothered. And I see it's honestly mainstream now. All the smart people are now just fully bought into Jokic. There's really not a whole lot of Jokic denial anymore. The only Jokic denial is now you got to win a championship, which I think is fair. I think it's fair to kind of a player of this caliber should win. And if not win, should be there. Should have chances, should be in conference finals multiple times. So to me, it's, that part of it's fair, but we're watching him now and it's just everybody kind of concedes. Nobody has him figured out. Nobody has him solved. He's solved everybody. He's better than ever. He's playing, he's just got a better control of the game. He's always had great control of the game. It's one of the things 4 years ago, Charles Barkley would point out that the game is always at his pace. Well, now he somehow has more control of the game. He literally does everything that he wants. And you just look at some of the raw numbers. He's number one in the NBA in offensive rating, meaning when he's on the court, the Nuggets are scoring 123.1 points per 100 possessions. That's number one with a bullet. And then his numbers, he's up after today, he's up to 25.7 points per game, which is not that far below his peak of 27 points, which happened last year, or 26 the year before. He might catch up now to that 26 mark that he had 2 seasons ago, but he's taking way fewer shots, 2 fewer than last year, 3 fewer than the year before. He's just mastered it. He does what he wants when he wants at the moment. It's unbelievable watching him play. And the fact that he's been at this level, I mean, he's been great for years, but this season, started off kind of playing, reading the court or whatever. Over the last, 20 games, it's not a small sample, it's a large sample. Over the last 20 games, he's putting up a 30-point triple-double on the best efficiency in the NBA. It's unbelievable, all the different boxes he checks.
He doesn't look exhausted
at all.
He doesn't look worn out. This is just who he is.
It's easy for him right now. That's the thing. Yeah, you've seen some players really go on runs where you just feel like they're leaving it all in the court or whatever. Jokic's just walking into it.
He's shooting 67% on 2-pointers. 67%. Via Harrison Wind of a site called DMVR, Jokic has shot under 50% just once this season.
That's the craziest stat in the world.
Yes. October 28th versus Utah in the Nuggets' 6th game of the year. He went 3-10 that night. The Nuggets won by 16.
Of course it was a game that didn't matter. So he he would think, they lost. It was a rough night. No, it was a nothing game.
There was a great play that was a sequence of that showed. I'll have to retweet it. He chooses to get a rebound. He does this where he grabs a rebound with one hand because it's easier for him to throw the baseball pass.
Right.
It's
so easy for him right now. It's unbelievable.
The other guy there's 2 other guys I want to credit. One of them is Aaron Gordon again, who Bruce Brown gave him the All-Star nod. Michael Malone made the case. My argument is going to be pretty succinct. I don't like, how you feel about MVP. I feel that way about All-Star, where I'm just there's only so many spots and there's a ton of guys. I don't know what to do. My case for Aaron is pretty simple, which is if you're somebody that believes that if you're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference and that team deserves at least 2 All-Stars, which I think is I don't necessarily subscribe to it, but you can. Then if the Nuggets are number one, then it's Aaron Gordon. Like, he's been the second best player definably by a
Oh,
wide margin.
and
And that's with a
Malone's
lot of
even
guys having
saying
good
this.
seasons.
Malone's even saying that, and like what a big deal it is for Malone to say that, because he's basically saying Jamal Murray's not the second All-Star,
Yeah.
which you would only say if, one, you felt confident enough in your team, like their ability to handle something like that, the egos, and then two, if it was clear enough, and it has been clear enough. Aaron Gordon has been unbelievable this season.
18 on 6 of 13 shooting. Rest in peace to the 50% streak for AG. 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 of 2 from 3-point range. He continues to shoot well from deep. The alley-oop, Razorburn just mentioned in the chat, the reverse alley-oop.
That was incredible.
Everyone's like, those are insane. I don't know how hard those are for him at this point. Like, I feel like he's practiced them enough that he knows like how to pull them off.
I love that Jokic threw it on that side of the rim. Like, that's funny, man.
Yeah. He plays Tatum on defense. He's got the toughest assignment. But the other thing, again, is the 2-man game between AG and Jokic is its own beast. Like, we've talked a lot about the Jamal Murray, Jokic pick and roll 2-man game. AG has gotten really good about how to find Nikola on big-to-big passing.
They had an action today where I can't remember how it worked, but they screened each other like 2 times. I think like Jokic screened for Gordon, passed it to Jokic, then screened for him, and it was just one of those ones where it's like, oh yeah, they both figured this out. They're on the same. If I asked you, Matt, to rank all of the 2-man games in the NBA, where's Aaron Gordon Jokic? Because I think Murray Jokic is number 1. Like, I honestly, there are players maybe that are better or this or that, but I don't know if there's a better duo. Where's Aaron Gordon Jokic? Top 10, top 15, top 20?
Yeah, probably top 15 to top 10. Might be top 10. Like, and again, a lot of this is, I will again say, I give AG a ton of credit for, he said like he got in the weight room, right? Like, AG always had so much athleticism, but he did not physically, and he's gotten stronger as the season's gone on. That's been the most impressive thing to me, is like, he started, it's like from the beginning of the season, he started realizing like, I can just dunk on people. Like, I can just dunk on them. And once he figured that out, like, that's what he's been doing. Like, the standstill dunks. Like, he's just, again, I got to go back to this with the size. These teams that try and go small, like Boston's entire thing has been, look at us, we're so small. We have so much versatility. And AG tried to post up Marcus Smart. That doesn't work because Marcus Smart's insane. He's a tank. But like Jaylen Brown, no shot. 0 chance against anybody underneath. And that leads me to the last point, which is like, look, Michael Porter Jr. has historically had horrific games versus the Boston Celtics. They have had his number. 19 points, 7 of 13 shooting, 3 of 7 from 3. He did have 3 turnovers. I thought like the hands were not great. Got a real out of control in transition tonight. But I'm willing to forgive all that because MPJ, most especially in half-court sets, was ready to fire. I've seen him in those Boston games so often be flummoxed by their switching, stunting, and zone and be hesitant. And MPJ was confident and just like, I'm firing. Like, okay, up, nope, 2 dribble, pull up. Like, the aggressiveness and assertiveness from MPJ was really big, and they needed those points tonight without Jamal, and MPJ stepped up. That was a really great game from MPJ, who, again, I will just say this, it's been several games since I can isolate mistakes on the defensive end from MPJ, which is all he's got to do. He can get beat. That's okay.
I've seen a few mistakes. But he has been better. I mean, like, there's no question that he is putting in the effort. And then on the offensive end, man, I mean, look at the Nuggets tonight and their shot profile. 13 for AG, 14 for Bruce, 13 for Porter, 13 for Jokic, 12 for Bones. Like, Porter is a gunner who has this year really had great shot selection and played within the flow of the offense. And for a guy of his caliber, I just think that's really, really impressive.
They lost the turnover battle. They did give up more points off of turnovers than the Boston Celtics gave up. So they lost that area. The Boston, there's a bunch of numbers that I think thought were crazy about this, and the Celtics fans were kind of talking about them. Like, the Celtics got to the line 27 times compared to Denver's 18. They made 6 more free throws. The Boston Celtics had 14 more points in the paint, if you can believe it. A lot of those obviously in transition. They did have 15 transition points to the Nuggets 3. I'm sorry, they had 12 transition points. The Celtics had 15 second chance points to the Nuggets 3 because the Nuggets made all their first shots. So there's a lot of these kind of like signals where this probably should have been a loss. And yet as much as if you're a Boston fan, I think it's totally fine to be like, look, make or miss league. They made him. We didn't. I think that's fine. I think Denver can really feel good about this. The other thing I will say is post game is Bruce Brown admitted yeah, look, we shouldn't get up for these games than we do for other games. You should get up for every game. He's like, but we do. That's just that happens. He admitted it that's what happens. And it's a really good thing that Denver hasn't had letdown spots. I think you can convince yourself to, when you're trying to do the whole don't get too high or too low, you can fall into the trap of not showing up for an opportunity to show what you can do. And against a team that had just destroyed you a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, I thought it was really impressive for Denver to get a win. This and the Memphis game were two games where matchup-wise, I was like, there's no way that Denver wins this, and they won both of them.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the shot profile as you were talking about it, and it's funny, man. The Celtics really are a threes and rim team. They have 2 shots in the mid-range. Everything else is right there in the restricted area or three-pointers, whereas Denver is much more, a lot of mid-range, a lot of elbow, a lot of floater zone. So it's part of it. I mean, basketball has been gamed a little bit, and the Celtics play it in the way that games it. So but it's also part of why I don't just go to the oh, well, they missed shots, this or that. Denver got the shots they wanted. They still have to be very diverse in profile, but Denver's good at those. Denver's good at the floater shot.
Yeah, I mean that's always been my thing with the analytics debate. Is I'm like, if you're really good at mid-range shots, you should take mid-range shots. Yeah. The question is whether or not you could be good enough at them to justify it. Nuggets on a back-to-back tomorrow versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll see who plays and who doesn't. Wouldn't be surprised if. Well, I expect Jamal to be back. Joker will play. We'll see if they get rest nights for anybody else. It is a division game. Do what?
What's your prediction on that? The rest? Do you think Porter plays? Gordon, Bruce?
I bet Porter might sit. It would make a lot of sense to play Jamal, sit Porter. I think KCP could use a breather, honestly. And that way you can just play Bruce, I think, in that spot, because Bruce's minutes load has been fine because he's coming off the bench. So, there's a lot of debate about that, about, should this be a rest game for Jamal? It makes a lot of sense. This is the optimum outcome. They get a win versus Boston. They didn't have to play Jamal. They can play him on the second night of the back-to-back versus the division opponent that's below 500. So, Fernando Pera asks, how's AG's shoulder? He looks a little in discomfort icing. It's sore. He's got a hurt shoulder. Guys are banged up. That's the NBA season, but I don't expect it to be anything that's going to require intervention. It's just going to be something he plays through unless it gets worse.
Wow.
Done with Matt Moore. He argued the Nuggets had no good wins. I did that when they didn't. I think
they did. I mean, I think they did. In hindsight, we didn't realize it because the Warriors were so bad. But that Warriors win game 2 is now one of only 2 losses they have on their home court. Somehow they're the Warriors at home and not the Warriors on the road this year. So that one, we were probably wrong that was a good win. It just didn't feel like it at the time because the Warriors were below 500. But outside of that, they didn't until the last 2 weeks, which is nothing but good wins.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm doing a whole piece for Action Network talking about key indicators for team strength, and after the Boston or that screw up versus the Detroit Pistons, right? Which you get one. I think it's okay for you to get one. Denver's now 13-3 at home. They're 7-2 in the division. Those are both really good indicators. And versus teams under 500, they have a good record too. Their win profile is heading right towards the direction of a 55-win team, which is the expectations that we kind of had for them preseason. And
not that you can count away any loss, but the 2 worst losses at home, Detroit and New York, came right around the COVID time. So for me, I did. It at least is a little thing where you go, I can conceive of a world where they didn't catch COVID in the middle of the year and have only lost once at home. I could conceive of it.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you want to get to before you head out to vacation in parts unknown?
No, I just I'm feeling good about the Nuggets. It's fun. I'm glad this homestand, I was very adamant that the home games were going to be different for Denver, even though the schedule got tougher, that it was going to mean something for Denver to get to be home a lot. And they are now, I think, 9-2 since the beginning of that. So I feel like so far this is going even better than I expected it would. And hopefully Denver can keep it rolling because they've only got another 2.5, 3 weeks of this favorable home stretch before they have to go back out on the road. This would be a great moment for them to really gel, create some distance. Would be nice.
A lot of back-to-backs. Malone's already talking about how many back-to-backs there are. He's talking about this being a pretty brutal January, even with the home games. I think the home and homes are much easier, but we'll see
agree.
how it goes. All right, it's going to wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Make sure to leave us those 5-star reviews. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you have yourselves a great week. I'll be with you guys on Tuesday morning. We'll do it around 10 a.m. Mountain Time, recapping the Nuggets game versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. I've had a request to talk about the Western Conference and kind of what the landscape talks about. We'll do that. We'll take a look at all these types of things. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you guys again next time. Thanks for joining us on Locked On Nuggets.